Hey everyone, Caldari Jones here. Tonight I want to talk about the T1 Electrical Pulse Retribution. This fit is designed for pilots with decent skill training in MR frigates, as well as small energy turrets. You want decent training in both because this fit survives by killing targets quickly. High DPS coupled with the Microwarpdrive allows you to clear T1 Electrical fairly quickly. Without even really min-maxing your movement and DPS, you can get consistent runs under 5 minutes in this setup. If you don't have decent skills trained in assault frigates or small energy turrets, I recommend going back to a beam retribution where you can use game knowledge and just the ability to kite with beam ranges to survive spawns versus this setup, which is just going to get in there and brawl everything and use your cruiser level DPS to just win fights. There's a lot of versions of this fit floating around and they're all really going to look pretty similar. You're going to have Tech 2 pulse lasers, Microwarpdrive, small battery, a single armor repper, some level of tank, based on what people are comfortable with, and then 2 to 3 heat sinks. With the one you see on screen here, I have 2 heat sinks, and then a Tech 2 DPS rig, which is just, only a few DPS behind having a third actual heat sink module. And then really, when you're designing these lows and the rig slot choices, you're just going to fit around the DPS modules you want and then fill the rest in with tank. With the setup we have on screen here, we have 435 DPS with Conflagration S ammo. That's at a range of about 5,900 meters plus another 3 kilometers with fall off. For Scorch, we have DPS just under 270. That's out to 17 kilometers plus another 3 approximately for your fall off. The tank we have on screen here is going to be a 77 EHP per second uniform before applying any weather effects. Your goal when flying this setup is to maximize your use of conflag ammo, because anytime you're not using conflag ammo, a beam retribution would actually do more damage than you. With that in mind, we're going to set our default keep it range value to just under our optimal range, and using that keep it range setting plus conflag is how we're going to tackle 99% of the rooms. The one spawn where you actually not use conflag will be the Tesseras, which are the rogue drone battlecruisers that have excellent tracking, short range, and hit fairly hard. You're going to orbit them at just under your Scorch optimal, which will be roughly 16 to 17 kilometers. As always, those are just general guidelines on how to fly this fit. As long as you remember that your main goal is to maintain your conflag optimal, you'll realize that you can toggle between keep it range, approach, orbit at various ranges to be able to make the most of your conflag DPS. Moving into the room clips here, I'm going to start with a Sparkgrip Tessera. Remember, this is a rogue drone battle cruiser. This is actually a 50% EM room, so this is about as bad as it's going to get. You're going to see me manually click off to the side of this Tessera, and then once I'm close, I'm going to hit my orbit command, which is set to 16 kilometers. That means my momentum in this orbit will carry me to around 70 kilometers, which is my optimal for Scorch. And then, you're pretty much you're going to sit here. You're going to plank away at these Tesseras, and then if you take a wrecking shot at this range, which can happen, if you feel that you cannot take another wrecking shot in a row, you will just fly away, catch him on tank, and then come back in. For this next room, it's actually another enemy that is asked about a lot with the Retribution, I think because, the fit just wants so much capacitor. Even in electrical, a lot of people will ask about the Devoted Knight. So the trick here is you're just going to do a little bit of manual piloting, and then once you're close, you're going to set up a 500 meter or a 1 kilometer orbit, just depending on what you want to do. Once you're in range, you're not going to put any capacitor into your repair because the Knight is not going to hit you. Now, that's not to say that you can't repair damage that you took on the way in, while you're sitting here. Just make sure you don't cap yourself out. For this next room, I'm actually going to show a bunch of pacifiers, really any combination of attacker and marker pacifiers. It's not a true threat to your ship, but it's one where if you feel like you want to orbit to increase your speed, their consistent thermal DPS here will slowly wear down on your tank because we are running a bare bones tank here. But if you just stay in and use your keep it range or approach, stay within conflag optimal, don't overfly your own guns, you will consistently beat these. One spawn that is similar to this that I'm not really going to show here are the Lucid Frigs. They're just going to do consistent damage and you don't want to orbit them. For this next room, we're going to look at the Triple Devoted Hunter. This is the room I'm asked about the most and really the reason why I made this guide. I'm going to show 2 versions of it. Both are negative 50% weather type, so it's the worst it's going to get. For this first clip, I'm just going to fly in, use keep it range set just below my optimal, and we're going to stay in. We're going to overheat the guns for the first hunter. We're going to overheat the tank for probably the first or the second hunter. We're going to have more than enough heat left to be able to do this, and you can show that even though it looks scary, you will survive this. Something that will happen here though is if you go in and you try to use Scorch or you try to orbit, you will fall behind on the DPS rates because they will outrange and out-track you. And for this second version here, what you're going to see me do is we're going to go in again. I'm going to kill the first hunter, and then this time what I'm going to do to show if you have a little bit lower SP and you're worried that you're falling behind on the tank, once this first hunter dies, I'm just going to fly away. Now you're going to see me, fly out here. Use a little bit of Scorch, but ultimately they're going to outrange your Scorch. So all we're going to do, we're just going to pull range because they're slow. We're going to catch up on tank, and then really here, since they're not really doing much damage, we have all the time here. It's still a fast room, and then because I'm, overly aggressive when I'm doing these T1 runs, you see me go back in really early, but honestly, you could stay there and you can rep to full if you want, and then you get back in, and it's, you are still taking damage, but you're going to live this spawn at this point. And just to reiterate though, do not orbit these hunters. They will out-track you and they will outrange you, so you just need to get in there and trust your DPS and your tank. All the other rooms are going to be pretty straightforward. For something like the Overmind or Karen, what you're going to want to do is get in on a close orbit, turn your Microwarpdrive off so you can get the best tracking possible, and you're just going to, whittle them down with your pretty impressive Conflag DPS. Quick guide this time. This one's not really built for starter pilots, so I'm not going to go into a lot of the basics that I might do for something like the beginner Rifter video. As always, if you have questions, you can hit me up in-game at Caldari Jones. You can find me at Abyssal Lurkers in-game, and you can find me in the Abyssal Lurkers Discord. Thanks as always. Catch you later.